I spent 40 years building the Iron Eagles Motorcycle Club from nothing. My blood was in every mile of Tennessee asphalt we'd claimed. Then overnight, they voted me out and stole my 1984 Sportster. The bike I rode to my wife's funeral, the one I promised her would never leave our family. They thought they could take my legacy because I was getting older. But they forgot something. I wasn't just any old biker. I was Jack Diesel Morrison. And I was coming to take back what was mine. Before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe, and also, drop a comment below. What's one life lesson you think everyone should learn before it's too late? Share your thoughts, thanks. It started on a Thursday night, after what I thought was a regular club meeting. I'd been president of the Iron Eagles for 4 decades. Built us from 5 outlaw bikers in a Cookeville garage to a respected brotherhood with 200 members across 3 states. "Jack, we need to have words," said Marcus Viper Sullivan, my vice president for the past 12 years. The way he avoided my eyes told me everything I needed to know before he even opened his mouth. The others had cleared out suspiciously fast after our regular Thursday meeting. Usually we'd hang around shooting the breeze over Budweisers and Buffalo Wings until well past midnight. Tonight the place felt like a morgue. Something cold as a Tennessee winter settled in my gut. What kind of words? I asked, though part of me already knew. I'd noticed the whispered conversations that stopped when I walked by, the way certain members wouldn't meet my eyes anymore. Viper finally looked straight at me, his face hard as granite. "The board took a vote, Jack. You're out. Effective immediately." My fist hit the scarred wooden table before I could stop myself. "You need a 2/3 majority for any leadership vote, and I've got to be present. That's in the bylaws I wrote myself." He actually had the balls to smile. "We amended the bylaws last month. You signed off on the changes yourself." The memory hit me like a sledgehammer. They'd buried it in routine paperwork about recruitment protocols and fundraising procedures. After 3 decades of trusting my Iron Eagles brothers, I'd made the fatal mistake of not reading the fine print. "This is complete bullshit, Marcus, and you know it," I growled, feeling every one of my 54 years weighing on my shoulders. "You can't just toss out the founder like yesterday's garbage." "Look, you'll always be respected as our founder," he said, not quite meeting my eyes again. "You'll get your retirement patch with full honors. But the club needs fresh blood, new direction. Your time's past, old man." That's when he dropped the bombshell that turned my world inside out. "There's one more thing, Jack. The '84 Sportster stays with the club. It's going to be our memorial bike, displayed right here in the clubhouse." Everything went blood red. That 1984 Harley-Davidson Sportster wasn't just any motorcycle. Sarah and I had rebuilt that beauty from the frame up during the last good months before the cancer took her. I'd ridden it to her funeral, promising her spirit that it would stay in our family forever. It was supposed to go to our grandson Tyler when he turned 21 next year. "The hell it stays," I snarled, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "That bike belongs to me and my family. It has nothing to do with club business." Viper slid a legal document across the beer-stained table. "Actually, when you registered all member vehicles under the club's insurance policy back in 2010, they became club assets. It's all legal and binding." I stared at this man I'd sponsored into the club, mentored, trusted with my life on countless rides through dangerous territory. He couldn't even look me in the eye while he was stealing my soul. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife ever could. "You come near my property," I said quietly, my voice carrying the weight of 35 years of hard riding and harder living, "you better bring body bags." Marcus sighed like I was being unreasonable. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Jack. The tow truck's already heading to your place. The boys have their orders." I left Murphy's bar without another word, fired up my street bob, and rode home through the winding back roads of Cookeville faster than I had in years. The cold night air bit through my leather jacket, but nothing could chill me more than the ice-cold realization of what was happening. I was too late. 3 club prospects I barely recognized were loading Sarah's Sportster onto a flatbed truck when I roared into my driveway. My son-in-law Dave stood helplessly on the front porch, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. "I tried to stop them, Jack," he called out as I climbed off my bike. "They had legal papers, said they'd call the sheriff if I interfered. The Sportster, Sarah's bike, our bike, gleamed under the harsh LED streetlights. Every chrome detail we'd polished together, every custom modification we debated over late-night cups of coffee. The pro-white paint job with hand-painted pink roses along the tank that matched her favorite Sunday dress. My hand instinctively moved toward the Colt .45 in my jacket pocket, then stopped. Starting a shooting war wouldn't accomplish anything except landing me in the county lockup or 6 feet under. These punk kids were just following orders, probably told I was nothing but a bitter old-timer who couldn't accept change. "This ain't over," I told the prospects as they secured the bike with tie-down straps. Not by a long shot. They wouldn't meet my eyes, just like their new leadership. Cowards, every last one of them. After the truck disappeared into the Tennessee night, Dave followed me into the house. My daughter Emma was waiting in the kitchen, her face streaked with tears. "Dad, how can they just take Mom's bike?" she demanded. "That was supposed to be Tyler's inheritance." I poured 3 fingers of Jack Daniels and knocked it back in one burning gulp. "They can take it," I said grimly, "but they can't keep it." "How are you going to get it back?" Dave asked. "They've got lawyers, legal documents. The club's gotten more corporate over the years, you've said so yourself." For the first time since leaving Murphy's bar, I allowed myself a cold smile. They might have papers and lawyers. But they forgot something important. I've got 35 years worth of secrets. And I taught every one of these backstabbers everything they know about being outlaws. That night, I sat in my garage staring at the empty space where Sarah Sportster had lived for the past 8 years. The concrete was still stained with oil in the distinctive pattern of her bike's slow drip. Every mark like a fingerprint I could recognize blindfolded. By sunrise, I had the beginnings of a plan. And it started with a phone call to Florida. They did what? The outrage in Tommy Hammer Rodriguez's voice crackled through my phone like electricity. He'd retired to the Florida Keys 5 years ago, but we still checked in on each other every few months. Real brotherhood doesn't fade with distance. "Voted me out and took Sarah Sportster," I repeated, the words still tasting like poison in my mouth. "Marcus is running the show now." Tommy's string of curses would have made a Marine drill sergeant blush. That slimy snake. I never trusted him from day one. "What do you need from me, brother?" "Information first. Then maybe some backup." "You got it, Diesel. 4 Real Brotherhood, not whatever those pretenders are calling loyalty these days." Next I called my daughter Emma. She needed to know what had happened to her mother's bike and why her 19-year-old son might be in danger. "They can't do that, Dad," she said immediately. "Mom wanted Tyler to have that bike when he graduated college. It's his connection to the grandmother he barely remembers." "I'm getting it back," I promised. "But I need you to keep Tyler away from the clubhouse and any Iron Eagles events. I don't want him caught in the crossfire of whatever's coming. Dad, please be careful. These aren't the same men you used to ride with." "That's exactly what I'm counting on," I replied. The Iron Eagles had changed dramatically over the past decade. The original members I'd ridden with understood what real brotherhood meant: loyalty, honor, protecting each other's families. But the new blood they'd been recruiting came from watching too many TV shows about outlaw bikers. They were playing dress-up in leather vests without understanding the sacred codes that kept a club together. Over the next week, I reached out to original Iron Eagles scattered across the Southeast. Men who still lived by the principles I'd established 3 decades ago. What I learned made my blood boil hotter than a knucklehead engine in August. "Marcus has been running meth through the club garage," Tommy reported from his network of contacts. "Not just local distribution either, he's got connections with suppliers in Atlanta and Memphis. Hard stuff that'll destroy everything you built." That explained the sudden leadership coup. I'd always kept the Iron Eagles clean of drug trafficking. Too many good men lost to addiction, too many clubs destroyed by the violence that follows the trade. We did security for local businesses, bail bonds, legitimate enterprises. It's how we'd survived when other clubs got taken down by federal RICO prosecutions. I learned other disturbing facts too. Marcus had 3 private bank accounts the membership didn't know about. He'd been selling club territory to rival groups for personal profit. Most shocking of all, he'd been planning this takeover for over 2 years, carefully placing his supporters in key positions while undermining my authority. And the biggest revelation, They weren't keeping Sarah's Sportster in the clubhouse like Marcus had claimed. It was at his private hunting cabin up in the Cumberland Mountains, where he planned to sell it to a private collector for his own profit. That's when I knew this wasn't just about getting my bike back. This was about saving the soul of everything I'd built. Just like the old days, grinned Bobby Matchstick Williams as he inspected his restored '79 shovelhead in my garage. The years had been hard on him, missing 2 fingers from a crash in '95, walking with a pronounced limp from another wreck in '03. But his eyes still burned with the same fire that had made him legendary in Tennessee biker circles. Not exactly like the old days, I corrected him, looking around at the 6 other original Iron Eagles who'd answered my call. We're not looking for a war here. This is about family, about honoring what Sarah meant to all of us. After what these punks did to you, rumbled Big Jim Tank Patterson. At 61 he still looked like he could bench press a Harley. They deserve everything that's coming to them. Maybe they do, I admitted. But this isn't about revenge. It's about legacy, making sure some things stay sacred even when everything else goes to hell. We'd been planning for 3 days, using every skill we'd learned in 35 years of outlaw brotherhood. The old-school Iron Eagles didn't just ride motorcycles. We were mechanics, military veterans, businessmen who'd learned to think strategically about everything from territory disputes to police surveillance. Marcus's cabin is isolated, reported Carlos Wrench Hernandez, studying satellite photos on his tablet. Only one access road, surrounded by national forest. He's got 2 prospects guarding the place, kids who probably don't even know why they're really there. I recognized one of the guards from club photos, a 22-year-old named Billy Twist Henderson who joined just 6 months ago. The other was someone I'd never seen before, probably recruited specifically for Marcus's private operations. We go in slow and easy, I instructed. Let them see us coming, give them a chance to step aside. These kids aren't the enemy, they're just following orders from people they trust. Tommy had driven up from Florida specifically for this mission, bringing intelligence that made our plan foolproof. Marcus is meeting with his Atlanta supplier tomorrow afternoon. He'll be gone for at least 4 hours, maybe longer if the business goes south. And the rest of the club? Asked Tank. I smiled coldly. That's where it gets interesting. I sent Marcus a text this morning. I know about the meth runs. I know about the private accounts. I know where my bike is. This ends today. The others stared at me in surprise. You wanted him to know we were coming? Matchstick asked. I wanted him to panic and make mistakes. Desperate men do stupid things and stupid things leave evidence. Wrench grinned slowly. You crafty old bastard. You're not just getting the bike back, you're exposing his whole operation. The Sportster is what matters most, I said firmly. But if we can save the Iron Eagles from these drug-dealing parasites at the same time, that's a bonus worth fighting for. We spent that evening going over every detail of the plan, testing our equipment, making sure everyone understood their role. As we prepared to leave at dawn, Tank pulled me aside. You sure about this, Diesel? Once we cross this line, there's no going back. The club might never forgive you for what's about to happen. I looked around my garage at the empty space where Sarah's bike should have been, then at these 6 men who'd ridden thousands of miles beside me through good times and bad. The club I founded died the night they voted me out, I said quietly. What we're doing tomorrow isn't about saving the Iron Eagles. It's about honoring the memory of something beautiful that used to exist. The next morning dawned clear and cold, perfect riding weather for what might be our last mission together. Marcus's hunting cabin came into view just before noon, a rustic log structure nestled among towering pine trees in the Cumberland Mountains. 2 motorcycles sat parked outside, a newer Sportster and a modified Dyna, both belonging to the prospects assigned to guard duty. We approached slowly, 7 old-school bikers riding in formation, not trying to hide our arrival. Let them hear the rumble of our engines, let them know that the founding fathers of the Iron Eagles had come calling. Billy Twist Henderson stepped out first, his hand moving instinctively toward the pistol in his belt, then freezing when he recognized who we were. His partner stumbled out behind him, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. Mr. Morrison? Billy's voice cracked slightly. He'd heard stories about us, legends that had probably grown in the telling over the years. "What's this about, sir?" "Step aside, son," I said calmly, cutting my engine. "I'm just here for what belongs to my family." "I can't do that." Marcus gave specific orders. But his hand had moved away from his weapon, and uncertainty flickered in his young eyes. Matchstick chuckled, a sound like gravel in a cement mixer. "You really want to try stopping us, boy? 7 original Iron Eagles? We were cracking skulls and claiming territory when you were still riding a bicycle with training wheels." The two prospects exchanged nervous glances. They'd grown up hearing stories about the legendary founding members, tales of bar fights and police chases and territorial wars that had become club mythology. "Look, Billy," I said, using his real name to establish connection. "That Sportster in there belonged to my late wife Sarah. She rebuilt it with her own hands before cancer took her. It's meant for my grandson Tyler when he comes of age. This isn't club business, it's family business." Billy swallowed hard, conflict written across his face. "They told us you were trying to undermine the club. That you couldn't accept stepping down gracefully. And you believe that? After 35 years of building everything you now enjoy?" The second prospect, whose name I didn't know, spoke up hesitantly. "Is it true you once pulled Marcus out of a burning car crash in Memphis? Saved his life when the police were coming?" I nodded grimly. "Among many other things I wish I could take back." The two young men looked at each other again, years of club mythology weighing against their direct orders. Finally Billy stepped aside. "We went into town for supplies," he said quietly. "We didn't see anything." I clasped his shoulder as I passed. "You just remembered what real brotherhood looks like, son." Inside the cabin, there she was, Sarah's 1984 Sportster, covered with a tarp but unmistakable to someone who'd spent countless hours working on her. I pulled the cover off gently, running my weathered hand along the tank. The hand-painted roses seemed to glow in the dim cabin light. "Hello, beautiful," I whispered. "Let's get you home where you belong." We were loading her onto the trailer we'd brought when the distant rumble of approaching motorcycles shattered the mountain quiet. A lot of motorcycles coming fast up the winding access road. "Looks like we've got company," Tank observed, peering through the cabin window. "I count at least 12 bikes, maybe more." I nodded calmly. "Right on schedule." The others looked at me in complete surprise. "You knew they were coming?" Wrench demanded. "I made sure of it," I replied, pulling out my phone to show them the text I'd sent Marcus 30 minutes earlier. "Your boys stepped aside like gentlemen. The Sportster's coming home. If you want to discuss this like men, you know where to find me." Tank's weathered face split into a savage grin. "You magnificent bastard. You wanted a showdown." "Not a showdown," I corrected. "A reckoning." "Get the Sportster to Emma's house," I ordered my brothers as the sound of approaching engines grew louder. "That's what we came for." Matchstick shook his head firmly. "Not happening, Diesel. Real brotherhood means nobody faces the music alone." "I'm not asking," I said with quiet authority. "Sarah's bike is what matters. Get it to safety." After a moment of tense silence, they nodded reluctantly and began securing the Sportster for transport. All except Tank, who remained beside me with his arms crossed. "I'm staying," he announced. Not a question, not a request. I didn't argue. Tank had been with me since the very beginning, through bar fights and police raids and territorial wars that had forged us into legends. We'd fought back-to-back more times than I could count. The others quickly loaded the Sportster and disappeared down the back service road just as Marcus and his crew roared up to the cabin's front entrance. Perfect timing, like a choreographed dance we'd performed dozens of times in the old days. "You ready for this?" Tank asked as motorcycle engines cut off outside. I checked the digital recorder in my jacket pocket, making sure it was running and capturing everything. Then I drew my .45, checked the chamber, and set it visibly on the cabin's wooden table. Been ready for 35 years. Marcus burst through the door with 8 men behind him, all armed, all looking like they wanted blood. His face twisted with rage when he saw the empty space where the Sportster had been displayed. "Where is it, you crazy old bastard?" he demanded, his pistol already drawn. "Gone," I said calmly, settling into a chair like I owned the place. Back where it belongs with family. He raised his gun, pointing it directly at my chest. You stupid fool. You think this is some kind of game? That bike was worth 90 grand to the right collector. I actually laughed. So that's what 35 years of brotherhood was worth to you? $90,000? It's not just about the money, he spat, spittle flying from his lips. It's about moving forward, leaving your outdated rules behind. Your old school mentality has been holding us back for years. My rules kept you alive, I replied quietly. Kept you out of federal prison. The minute you started running meth through the club, you put a target on every member's back. RICO prosecutions have destroyed bigger organizations than ours. His eyes narrowed dangerously. How did you? I built this club from nothing, I said simply. You think I don't still have eyes and ears in every chapter? One of the younger members shifted nervously. What's he talking about, Marcus? You promised we weren't getting involved with drugs. I smiled coldly. Oh, he's been involved with plenty. 3 private bank accounts where he's been skimming profits. Territory deals with the Diablos that put money in his pocket but will get the rest of you killed when they decide to expand eastward. Doubt flickered across several faces like flames catching dry kindling. This was the fundamental weakness of betrayal. Once trust was broken, it became easy to believe it wasn't the first betrayal. He's lying. Marcus snarled desperately. Trying to turn you against me with paranoid fantasies. Am I? I pulled out a thick manila folder from my jacket and tossed it onto the table. Bank statements going back 2 years. Phone records showing calls to known drug suppliers. Even got some nice surveillance photos of you meeting with Diablo's leadership in Atlanta last month. It was mostly a bluff. The folder contained old registration papers and blank pages. But Marcus's face told me everything I needed to know about the accuracy of my accusations. You've been playing us? Demanded Jerry Dealer Morrison, one of the senior members, as he reached for the folder. Don't touch that. Marcus shouted, panic creeping into his voice for the first time. But it was too late. While they were distracted by the documents, Tank had quietly moved to flank them. At 61 he was still the most dangerous man in any room. The thing about betrayal, I continued conversationally, is that it never stops with just one victim. You betrayed me, sure. But you've been betraying every man wearing an Iron Eagles patch. Marcus raised his gun again, desperation replacing calculation in his eyes. Enough games. I'll deal with all of you traitors if I have to. That's when Tank moved with the fluid violence that had made him legendary, disarming the man nearest him before anyone could react. I reached for my own weapon as the cabin erupted into controlled chaos. But no shots were fired. Instead, 2 of Marcus's own supporters grabbed his arms, forcing him to drop his pistol. We need to talk, brother, said Dealer, his voice heavy with disappointed authority. Sounds like we've got some serious club business to address. The reckoning had begun. Marcus struggled against the grip of his former allies, his face purple with rage and disbelief. You're choosing this washed-up old man over me? He's nothing. He's yesterday's news. He's Jack Diesel Morrison, Dealer cut him off with quiet finality. Founder of the Iron Eagles. The man who gave most of us a brotherhood when we had nothing else. And if even half of what he's saying is true, you've destroyed everything sacred we swore to protect. I picked up my .45 but kept it lowered, non-threatening. I don't want war with the Iron Eagles, I said honestly. I never did. I just wanted what belonged to my family. The Sportster? Dealer asked. And the honor of what we built together. This club used to stand for something real, brotherhood, loyalty, protecting each other's families. Not backstabbing and drug running and betraying the trust of good men. The cabin fell silent except for the whisper of wind through mountain pines. 35 years of history pressed down on all of us like the weight of accumulated miles. What happens now? Someone finally asked. That's not my decision anymore, I said truthfully. I'm not your president, not your leader. But if you're asking for advice from someone who's seen this club at its best and worst, clean house. Start with him. Check those bank accounts. Remember what the patch on your back is supposed to mean to the world. Dealer nodded slowly, understanding passing between us like riders recognizing each other on a lonely highway. And you, Diesel? What's next for you? I got what I came for, I replied, heading toward the door with Tank beside me. The rest is up to you. Outside, we climbed onto our bikes under the watchful eyes of men young enough to be our sons, witnesses to something they'd probably never expected to see. The old guard, still standing after all these years, still fighting for what mattered. Think they'll fix what's broken? Tank asked as we rode down the mountain highway toward home. Maybe. Maybe not. That's their burden to carry now. 3 days later, Sarah's 1984 Sportster sat gleaming in my garage where it belonged. Tyler ran his hands over the custom paintwork with the reverence of someone touching a holy relic, while Emma watched with tears streaming down her face. It's exactly like in Mom's photos, he whispered. The roses and everything. 1 more year, I told him. When you graduate college, she's yours. That was the promise I made to your grandmother. My phone buzzed with a text from dealer. Marcus is out. Unanimous vote. Bank accounts frozen, drugs confiscated, territory restored. Would you consider coming to our next meeting? As advisor only. We need to remember where we came from. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I watched my grandson circle the Sportster, seeing not just metal and chrome but family history, love made tangible, promises kept across the years. Some things were worth fighting for. Worth risking everything to protect. Grandpa. Tyler looked up with Sarah's eyes shining in his young face. Will you teach me how to ride her properly? When it's time? I smiled, feeling the weight of 35 years lifting from my shoulders like morning fog burning off in Tennessee sunshine. That's a promise, son. Maybe I'd answer dealer's text tomorrow. Maybe the Iron Eagles could be rebuilt into something worthy of the brotherhood we'd once shared. Maybe not. Right now, in this garage with Sarah's bike back where it belonged and her grandson already falling in love with his inheritance, I had everything that truly mattered. I'd spent 35 years building something that meant everything to me. When they tried to steal it away, I'd learned the most important lesson of all. Some legacies can't be destroyed if you're willing to fight for them. The Iron Eagles might survive, might even thrive under new leadership that remembered old values. But win or lose, I kept my promise to Sarah. Her memory lived on in chrome and steel and hand-painted roses, ready to carry her love into another generation. That was a legacy worth any price.